Okay, today we are going to do the first two shapes, the prism and the cylinder. And we'll just kind of take a look at these first of all. This first one looks just like the picture we drew. Well, not just like it, but very similar to the picture we drew for our prism. The second one does not. Now, typically, when you have a prism, you're going to have a base and a top that kind of look the same, and you got everything in between them. When you have a triangular prism like this, it's going to look a little bit different. This one, they don't have the two bottom and tops aren't quite the same. So what you have to do when you're looking at these is we kind of have to figure out which one's the base on these different shapes. And your base always has to be two sides that are across from each other that are parallel. So on this first one, you could pick the top and the bottom as the base, or you could pick the left and the right as the base, or the front and the back. Okay, you've got a few choices there. But on this one, the only two sides that you have that are parallel would be the two triangles, the triangle on the front and the triangle on the back. So when we do the base on this one, the base of this triangle, or the base of this figure here, this prism here, is going to be the triangle. So we'll keep that in mind as we go. Down at the bottom, you got your two cylinders. And with the cylinders, your formula is basically the bases are going to be the circles, at either the top or the bottom. This one's kind of tilted on the side. These two circles would be your bases. Those, the formulas are just going to line up very nicely with what we have there. But these, the prisms, they don't necessarily always line up perfectly. So let's take you through how these work. Now, in the directions, it tells you that these are prisms. On your test, it's probably not going to tell you that. So on the test, you're going to have to be able to look at the picture and then kind of match it up and figure out which one of these shapes it is. But these first ones are telling us it's prism. They want us to find the surface area and the volume for each. So we're kind of going to have to write small to fit everything in. So let's start with this first one. If you go to your chart here for a prism, your surface area, I'm going to write this over here on the left. Surface area is going to be P, which stands for the perimeter of the base, times the height. H stands for the height. And then we're going to add 2b to that. The capital B stands for the area of the base. So let's take care of that just first of all, and then we'll come back to the volume after that. All right, let's start this one off. First thing we're going to start with is P, which is the perimeter of the base. Now I'm going to count this bottom part here as the base. We just need a set of parallel sides to have a base. I'm going to count that as the base of the bottom there. So the perimeter of that would be the distance all the way around. Well, each one of those sides is going to be 4 feet. So if you take 4 times 4, you get 16 for the perimeter. And then we're going to multiply that by the height of our prism. If I'm considering this bottom part to be the base, then the height would be how tall it is, which would be 10 feet. That takes care of the first part. Then we're going to multiply by 2 times the area of the base. The base on this one is a square. And to find the area of a square, you're going to take side squared. Well, your side squared here would be 4 squared. Or a lot of times people think of that square as being the same thing as a rectangle. If it was a rectangle, you would take base times height. 4 times 4 would be 16, which is the same thing as 4 squared. All right, now we put it all together. 16 times 10 is 160. And then we got to do parentheses first. 4 squared is 16. So I have 2 times 16, which is 32. And 160 plus 32 is 192. So your surface area on that one would be 192. When we label it, we're going to label it square feet. There's your surface area. All right, any questions with the surface area part first of all? Okay, let's go to the volume. Once again, if you go back to your cheat sheet, the volume formula for a prism is capital B times H. The capital B stands for the area of the base. Take the area of the base times the height. And we'll start with that area of the base. We just did the area of the base over here. You got square for your base. Find the area of a square. You take a side and square it. 4 squared is 16. And we also found the height over here. The height was 10. That's how tall the prism is. 16 times 10 is 160. And when you're doing volume, you're going to do cubic feet. So your exponent is going to be a 3 on there. Now this year, I'm not going to take off points if you forget your labels here. Square feet, cubic feet, that's not a big deal to me. We're just kind of introducing this to you this year. But next year, in Algebra 2, it is possible they would take off points for labels. So you want to try to start labeling these correctly. Square feet when you have surface area, cubic feet when you have volume. All right, any questions with the first one? Okay, let's go to the second one. Now, first thing I'm going to do when I'm looking at a prism is I'm going to identify where my base is. Now, this one sits on a rectangle on the bottom, but the rectangle doesn't have a side that's parallel to it. So when you're picking out the base on your prism, the base has to have another side that's parallel to it. Well, the only two that are parallel are the two triangles. So I'm going to highlight this one as our base. So kind of remember that when you're doing triangular prisms. When you have a triangular prism like this, the triangle is going to be the base. Now we'll go right back to our formulas. For surface area, we have perimeter times the height plus 2 times the area of the base. When you get to your quiz next week, you will not have to have these memorized, these formulas. You get to use the yellow sheet when you take your quiz next week. All right, let's put in our parts. First thing we've got to do is figure out the perimeter of the base. Now, we've got all of the sides except for one. This side is 8, this side is 10. This side right here, we need to figure out how long it is. But if you go across, its opposite side here would be 6. These two triangles are parallel to each other. So if this side is 6, what's this side got to be? 6. And now I can do the perimeter. 8 plus 10 plus 6. I'll go ahead and write that out. 8 plus 10 plus 6 is your perimeter. We're going to multiply that by the height of the prism. If this is the base, then my height has to go the opposite direction. It's going to be over here. Your height is going to be 5 inches. Rolled that prism over and made this sit on the base. It would be 5 inches tall. So that's your height. We're going to add to this 2 times the area of the base. Now our base on this one is a triangle. If you remember, your area for a triangle is half the base times the height. We've got a little bit of work to do on this one. 8 plus 10 is 18. 18 plus 6 is 24. Multiply that by 5. And then we have 2 times half the base times the height. Now this is finding the area of the base. Your base is this triangle. And we want the base times the height. Well, your height is going to be going to a right angle. Here's your right angle. So we can either pick 8 as the height or 6 as the height. It doesn't matter which one you pick because the other one's going to be the base. If you pick 8 as the height, 6 would be your base. If you pick 6 as the height, 8 would be your base. So I'm going to put 6 as the base and 8 as the height. But you could have those two flipped around. Now we'll do some simplifying. 24 times 5 is 120. And then let's do what's inside parentheses first. 6 times 8 is 48. Half of 48 is 24. And 2 times 24 is 48. We add those two together. 120 plus 48 is 168. And this one is in inches, so our answer would be square inches. Now, as we watch these, you can probably see this is something, when you get to your homework on Alex tonight, you're probably not going to be able to do this in your head. You're probably going to have to write a bunch of stuff out. So once you get to Alex here in a little bit, same deal. You might want to have a piece of paper next to you so you can kind of write all this stuff out. All right, let's do the volume. I didn't leave us a whole lot of room for volume, but luckily it's a pretty short formula. Volume for a prism is going to be area of the base times the height. Once again, if you don't know where that's coming from, here's your prism. There's your surface area formula. Here's your volume formula. All right, let's put this in here. We want the area of the base first. Area of the base we already did over here, half the base times the height. So let's just go ahead and come down to here. When we did the area of the base, we got 24. And then the height we already put in here too. The height of this thing is 5. That's the height of your entire prism. And if we take 24 times 5, we've done that already also. 24 times 5 is 120. And now when we do this, we want cubic units on volume, so this would be cubic inches. That's all there is to it. Any questions with number 2? Yep.
Oh, for the half times base and height, can't you just keep it the same since you're times it by 2?
Yeah, these two, the 2 and the 1/2 will end up canceling each other out.
Yeah, so you can just have base times height.
You could essentially do base times height. Yeah. Any other questions with that? Okay, so remember, if you've got a prism with more than one set of sides parallel, you can kind of pick which one's the base. If you don't have a set of more than one set of sides that are parallel, you have to pick the parallel sides to be your base. When it's a triangular prism, your triangle is going to be the base. Okay. Anybody need to see more examples with prisms? Okay, let's go to the bottom. Now, it tells us in the directions here, we're going to do this for a cylinder. Once again, on the quiz next week, probably will not tell you in the directions what figure you have. So you're going to have to be able to look at the picture, and then look at your cheat sheet here. These things kind of match up with this one right here, which is a cylinder. And then here's your formulas for a cylinder. The surface area is a long equation. The volume is another short one. The letters we need to know on this one, R is going to represent radius. H is going to represent the height. All right, let's put them in here. Now, use this to copy it over. We'll start with surface area. Surface area is 2 pi RH plus 2 pi r squared. And again, next week, you will not have to have that memorized. You get to use this on your quiz. So just make sure you don't lose your yellow sheet. Things in here. 2, we don't need to change. The pi, we're not going to change. R stands for radius. If you look at your picture over here, on this circle over here, we have a diameter of 15. Radius is always going to be half the length of the diameter. So the radius is 7.5. Half of 15 is 7.5. And then the H represents the height of the entire cylinder. This thing's laying on its side. If you tipped it upright, it would be 32 centimeters tall. So that's going to be your height, 32. And then we're going to add to that 2 pi r squared. The 2 and the pi we don't need to change. R squared would be that radius, which we said was 7.5 squared. Now, before I move on from there, did we lose anybody on this filling in the equation? Okay, now we just got to put it to work here. If you have a calculator, first part, calculator should be able to do this. We have 2. Your calculator might have a pi button. If it does, go ahead and use it. Oops, I missed something here. 2 times pi times 7.5 times 32. That is 1507.96. I'm going to round that to 1508. And then we want 2 pi times 7.5 squared. Now, with order of operations, we have to do exponents first. So I'm going to take that 7.5 square up first. That's 56.25. So we got 2 times pi times 56.25. And let's go ahead and take care of that on the left or on the right hand side here. 2 times pi times 56.25. 353.429 They want us to round to the nearest tenth, so we'll go 353.4. And if we add those two together, 1508 plus 353.4, 1861.4. All right, and then labeling it. Let's see. We got centimeters on this one. We are doing surface area. We need square centimeters for that one. All right, it's kind of a lot of stuff in there. Any questions on that first one? Okay, let's go to the second one then, the volume. Volume on the cylinder is going to be pi r squared times the height. And let's put in the parts. Pi, we don't need to change. R on this stands for the radius. Again, your radius is 7.5. It's halfway across, half of that diameter, 7.5. We're going to square that. And then we want the height of the entire cylinder. The height of the cylinder would be 30. And again, on this one, the 7.5 squared, you got to do that first. That was 56.25. We've got pi times 56.25 times 32. So that you should be able to put in the calculator. I come up with 5654.9 if you round it off to the nearest tenth. 5654.9, and then some volumes. We all right. Any questions with those? Okay. One last one. We're going to start this off together, but we're going to have you finish it yourself. So we got another cylinder, same formula. For the surface area, we want 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. And let's go ahead and put in our parts here. Let's see, the 2 and the pi, we don't need to change. Radius on this one, they give us the radius is 8.5. And then the height is how tall the cylinder is. If you look at your cylinder, it's going to be 7 meters tall. There's the first part. Then we need to add to that 2 pi r squared. Radius again was 8.5. We're going to square that. So let's see if you can take it from here. On your calculator, see if you can finish that off. You don't have to worry about the volume just yet. We'll do the volume here together in a second. All right, looks like we're on track with these. Anybody want more time to finish that up? Now, I want to show you something on here because some of you have different answers out there. You may have a different answer than the person next to you, but it could be correct. So when I use the calculator, if I use the actual pi button, if I hit equals on my calculator, I get 3.141592654. So when I use the pi button on my calculator, it's taking it out to whatever that is, 9 spots on the calculator. Okay, some of you just use 3.14 on your calculator to S for pi, which is fine. Which one is bigger? 3.14 or what I have on my calculator?
3.14.
This one's bigger on my calculator. So if I use the actual pi button, I'm going to get an answer that's a little bit bigger than if I use 3.14. So when I go through this, I'm going to use the pi button. If you use 3.14, your answer might be a little bit smaller. Let's just see how this goes here. So we got 2 pi 8.5, whoops. 2 times pi times 8.5 times 7. That's going to be about 373.8. I think if you use 3.14, you got for pi, you got 373.4, I believe, or something close to that. And then over here, we want 2 times pi. I need 8.5 squared first. 8.5 squared is 72.25. And I'll multiply that by 2 and pi. That's 453, actually 454 if we round it to the nearest 10. And then adding those two together, 373.8 plus 454, 827.8. And this one is, we're doing surface area. So we're going to have square meters on this one. All right. Did anybody use 3.14? What did you get for an answer?
Me?
Yeah.
I got 827.4.
827.4, okay. So either way, you're going to be really close. So when you're doing your quiz over this next week, if you use 3.14 or if you use pi, you're still going to be in the real close. You're going to be in the same ballpark. So you just have to be close on these when it comes to the quiz next week. Your answer won't be exact. Okay, let's finish this off. Volume was the shorter formula. Volume on a cylinder is pi r squared times h. And we've already done these. R squared, your radius was 8.5. We'll square that. And then we said the height of the cylinder was 7. So I'm going to put that in the calculator. 8.5 squared was 72.25. We're going to multiply that by pi and by 7. My calculator comes out to 1588.9 if we round it off. And labeling that would be cubic meters since we're doing volume. All right, check my work there. 1588.9, is that look right?
Yep.
All right, there's your two shapes for today, the prism and the cylinder. Anybody need to see more cylinders?
That was fun.
It is fun. Like all math, it's fun. Okay. Now, on your homework for this is going to be on Alex.
Oh.
And I think it's labeled kind of like what we have here. So when you go into your assignments, your options, you want to pick the one that says the surface area and volume of prisms and cylinders. And when you get that done today, if you want to show it to me, I can put it in the grade book today, or I can get it off the computer later on. Either way, it's fine. It's up to you. And that's all we got for today. Next week, or I guess Thursday when you come in, we'll do pyramids and cones. Lauren, can you hit the light?
Thank you.